Are you suffering from document fatigue yet? It's been a long time, and we are now only on 150 to 200 of the Moscow Police Department deep dive dump, whatever they want to call it. And I realize I'm behind. A lot of creators have long been done with it. I'm a little slower to the punch. It takes me hours to get through these things. And so let's just get right at it. By the way, this is going to be a little shorter. So my style so far has been to break down each one of the 50 documents at a time. That's how they delivered it on their website, 50 documents at a time. So I'm doing videos based on 50 documents at a time. These are 150 through, or 151 through 200. And then they're going to 317, I think. So there's going to be several many more hours of this, and it may be getting fatigue time for some of you, but bear with us. We'll get through this if you're interested in seeing my initial thoughts on all of the documents. So let's get right at it. I'm going to put up something on the screen here. This is that's the number of documents we're going through. Each video will be about an hour. I'm going to watch the timer, and I'll stop at about an hour and then start another part. So this is documents 151 through 200 in 1 hour segments, forever how long that takes us to get through it. And again, I'm just giving you my initial thoughts. It's kind of like a raw look at my thoughts on the documents. So here we go. This is a document that was released to Dustin Baker on February 22nd. So this is well after the murders. On February 22nd, 2023, I was listening to the tip line phone calls, and a tip from somebody with the initials JE from Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania was left on February 16th at 6:49 in the morning. In the tip, this person stated that her brother, some person with some initials that we don't get to know, and a something, so two people, used to be friends with Brian Koberger when they were in high school. This person stated that she felt it would be in our best interest to talk to these people. Now, right off the bat, just being sarcastic, I thought Brian Koberger didn't have any friends. We see a lot of friends in documents coming out and talking about what Brian Koberger is like. I thought Brian Koberger didn't have any friends. That's been the narrative. He's an incel. Nobody likes him. He doesn't like anybody. He's a loner. That's the story they want you to believe. And yet we have a bunch of friends talking about what Brian Koberger was like. I just find that a little funny. All right, not much to talk about there, other than I just wanted to comment about, here we go again with Brian Koberger has friends. Now, granted, they were from high school. Maybe it's been a while. Anyways, Lawrence Mowery on February 22nd, 2023. And this is about an event that is on November 26th. So the reports in February writing about an event on November. Those kind of discrepancies in time always bug me a little bit. When you get around to writing a report about something that happened a long time ago, how good is your recollection? How good were your notes? Are there going to be mistakes? But anyways, on November 22nd, on November 26th, slow the fuck down, 2022, I applied for and was granted a warrant to serve on Google for information on accounts, searching the following items from August 1st through November 13th. Now, I want to point, this is the reason why. Well, let me get I'm going to wait till I get to the paragraph to explain to you. Okay. Here's what was being searched for. So it's on Google for information searching for the following terms: 1122 King Road residents, and all these different variations of it, Moscow, Idaho, whatever, King girls, Kaylee Gonzalez, all these different terms. They're searching for records pertaining to people who are searching for those search terms. So they want to know who's looking up the house, so keep in mind, when you're doing internet searches out there, so somebody in the government may decide to look at who all is looking at these topics. Can I find something suspicious about you and link you to the crime scene? What are you interested in this case? That seems awfully suspicious. If you're looking into this case, something must be wrong with you. All right. On November 26, 2022, at approximately 15:46 hours, the warrant was served via email to some address at google.com. So on December 1st, 2022, I applied for and was granted a warrant to serve on Google for information on accounts searching the following terms from November 13th, that's the date of the murders, and universal coordinated time of such and such, such and such. And again, searching for all these terms. I guess I thought I was going to be able to read the paragraph to explain why I wanted to. It's to focus on these dates. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to explain it to you. They're looking for search terms from August 1st, 2022 through November. This is what I want to highlight. This August 1st through November. The reason I want to bring it up is they point out because we know Bryan Kohberger is the killer, we're only interested in the time of when Bryan Kohberger arrived. This is the part that they bring up several times. We're only looking for data between August, when Bryan Kohberger was believed to arrive at WSU, and when the murders happened. That's all we care about, because we know Bryan Kohberger is the killer. So when we're searching for any information, we're only looking for things that happened when Bryan Kohberger got into town. What that becomes, in my opinion, is what you call selective investigation. You know who the killer is, so all you're going to do is focus your investigation on what can I bring out for this guy. At some point in this investigation, from my opinion, at some point in this investigation, it changed from looking at a whole bunch of other people that could possibly be involved to Bryan Kohberger. We've been told Bryan Kohberger is the guy by the FBI, and so now all we will focus on is where was Bryan Kohberger at all times. All focus on the investigation. This is something that I feel happens all the time in law enforcement. I had just recently been talking to an attorney about this. At the point that law enforcement and the prosecution decides who the person is, they do become narrow focused, and all that becomes their focus is proving that the guy that they have is right. And so they start looking looking through everything that person has done. Well, we know who did it, so now let's look at everything that person has done. Now, I want to point out, I know this is a huge side rant, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to explain it clearly when we go through the documents. What you'll find is 1 million people have K-bar knives. 1 million people have knives that were discarded in suspicious places. 1 million people have search histories that might be suspicious. But all they care about is Bryan Kohberger's. And all they care about is telling you about the times Bryan Kohberger did something suspicious. And what you fail to realize if you're not looking through the documents is how many times other people are doing suspicious shit. And it would look suspicious to them if they brought it up to you. But what they do is they look and they go, oh, this person did something suspicious, but that's not the person. So we're not going to talk about it. We're not going to bring it out in the media because it will just confuse people. All we're concerned about is when Bryan Kohberger does something suspicious. So that's how law enforcement and prosecution becomes narrow focused. Lots of suspicious shit was happening, lots. But they only point out to you the things that are suspicious about the guy they believe that did it. And again, when they start doing their investigations, at some point they switch from looking at everyone to let's only focus on the times that Bryan Kohberger was doing something. That's what we're looking for. Any micromanaging thing that can show us that Bryan Kohberger is more guilty than we already say he is. That's the entire focus of everything. So these are the search terms. They're looking for murders in Moscow, stabbings, blah, 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 blah. All these different search terms. It was kind of interesting. On December 1st, they served a warrant for Google. This was done in an attempt to locate a suspect, possibly searching for the victims prior to the murders. So what they're looking for, and I'll guarantee what they're looking for at this point, is we need to prove Bryan Kohberger was looking to kill these girls. So now what they're desperately trying to do in this series of documents is extremely clear. What they're trying to do at this point is we know Bryan Kohberger is the killer. Now we need to prove to America and a court and all those things that Bryan Kohberger was looking for those girls, and any evidence we can have. Any evidence we can have that he crossed paths with those girls, even if it's circumstantial, that will be something we will narrowly focus and pull that out. Oh, look, Bryan Kohberger bumped it. Bryan Kohberger was walking down the street one day and Bethany Funk walked by and we happened to have them on camera at the same time. We will use that in the jury to show that these two knew each other. That's the kind of shit they're doing. Let's find any fucking thing we can find to put Bryan Kohberger with the girls. Here's this catcher. Here's the tickler. They never could find that shit. They never could get Bryan Kohberger with the girls, ever. Constantly they're searching. We are looking for proof, and they'll say it over. We are looking to put Bryan Kohberger with these girls. How did he know the girls? They never found it. They told you that at the very end of this case too. They told you that standing up in the press conference after the sentencing. We really wanted to make a connection between Bryan Kohberger, and there never was. There never was. Every single time, I can't beat it enough. Every single time they look, and they're desperately trying to put Bryan Kohberger, somehow showing that he stalked the girls, he knew the girls, he had a reason to kill the girls. They never could find it. There was never a motive. Never. So it's not important in the sense that you don't have to have a motive, and people do kill people for no fucking reason whatsoever, or you just can't ever find a motive. But let me reiterate, all these documents showing how much they were digging into Bryan Kohberger, it's because they were told Bryan Kohberger's the guy, and they desperately dug in to prove, to show America anything they could find. If he could fart in their general direction, we'll say it's somehow probable cause for murder. They're looking for anything that they can try to paint a narrative, and they couldn't fucking find one. That in itself makes me suspicious, because I'm just like, why is there nothing? They tried really hard. They told you that multiple times. We tried really hard. All right, so let me repeat this again. This was done in an attempt to locate a suspect possibly searching for the victims prior to the murder, potentially gaining information on their persons and residence or lifestyle, which could be located on social media. The searches after were done in an attempt to locate the suspect possibly searching for information on the murders prior to the discovery of the victims. I was contacted by Google regarding the warrants and informed that the process of searches were extremely complicated and the large data range was problematic in their search queries. They stated that they had to restart the process several times due to the complexity of these statements. On December 19th, Brian Koberger was identified as a possible suspect. On February 5th, I'm laughing because Google's saying, at first they're like, search for anybody who's looking on this house, looking on these girls, and Google's like, fuck, you're asking for an enormous amount of thing. And then Brian Koberger's name was given, and they're like, you know what, just look for Brian Koberger. Just look for Brian Koberger. Narrow that shit down, only look for Brian Koberger. Because again, once they've been given the name, the focus becomes one guy. So on February 15th, 2022, after talking with other investigators and conferring with the Latah prosecutor's office, it was decided to return the warrant without data, as the original broad scope of these warrants was to determine the potential suspect. So they're broadly sweeping. Anybody who's looking at the house, anybody's looking at the girls, we're looking for a potential suspect. That's how it started. And it was too broad, Google said. You're looking for way too big of a data set. And so when Brian Koberger's name was brought forward, all they began looking for is Brian Koberger. That's what you need to take away from this document. We started out looking for other suspects, anybody who might be involved, like they really should do. And at some point, Google said that's way too broad. You've cast way too big of a net. And then Brian Koberger's name was given to them by the FBI and said, you know what, let's narrow that search down to one person. All right. New warrant then this is new warrants specific to Koberger's Gmail account would then include search history have been requested. So too broad of a net. FBI comes in, Brian Koberger's your guy. Oh, you know what? Let's just look for Brian Koberger. And again, this is how you get somebody convicted, is you decide who it is, and then you build a narrative around it. And here's the thing, I'm a creative writer by nature. I'm a storyteller by nature. You give me anybody in America on a crime, and I can find a narrative to show you something that might look like they did it, if I try hard enough. That's what they're basically doing. Tell me the name, tell me the crime. I'll find a way. I'll do searches and warrants, and I will find everything I can, and then I will pick this out and pick that out and pick that out, and I'll show you only those things, and I can build a narrative that'll convince you that guy probably did it. Okay, Lawrence Mowry on February 23rd. On February 23rd, I found I had reported in my reports referencing Google's warrant return for the search terms. These warrants were served via this address that they've set up. These warrants were actually served via another address, and I received confirmation from this thing referencing those warrants. It's a Google warrant correction. At first, as I read it back, I'm like, it's a no, never, nine. But the point being is that anytime that the police say we did this and we made a mistake, and they have to correct it later, it draws attention to my mind. In fact, one of the things I told you early on, there was a report where the police, they referred to a crime scene of 1022 King Road residence. And I said to myself, that's either a mistake, which was signed off on by multiple police officers and later has to be corrected, or there's another crime scene that they're hiding from us. And I suspected not the latter. I did not suspect there was another crime scene they're hiding from us. What I suspected is they made an error and we'd see it. And sure enough, in this set of documents, you will see, hey, earlier I said it was 1022. I made a mistake. So that kind of shit happens. But whenever you make a mistake, you need to focus. As a researcher, you need to focus. Was it a mistake, or did something happen at 1022? That's what a really, really, really good researcher will start to do is the 1022 a mistake signed off by multiple people, or did something happen at that address? Now, spoiler alert, I don't think anything happened at 1022. I think that was a mistake. But anytime they do that, or anytime they say, hey, there was 94 samples of blood taken at a place, oops, it was a typo, it was supposed to be 4, you go, okay, let's document that you say it was a mistake, but let's take a look at the original thing. Is there a reason why it was 94? Was it really 94? Was there something that happened at 1022 instead of 1122? So just pay attention. Again, I don't think anything did happen at 1022. My point being is that anytime there's a shift in the documents, you should be asking, did that shift, is it really a clerical error, or is there something else there? And dig a little bit. All right. So now we're looking at Brett Payne's report from 2/24. It's on a Coeur d'Alene Police Department phone swab and paper receipt. I just found this one really interesting. On or about February 13th, 2023, Moscow Police Department received a package from the Coeur d'Alene Police Department. This package contained 2 items for Detective Mallory. I placed these items, I provided these items to Detective Mallory on February 14th without opening the package, as I thought that they were digital items. So Payne gets some evidence, and it's in a package. He assumes it's digital evidence, and he doesn't open it. He later on finds out on February 23rd, like 10 days later, Detective Mallory brought the 2 items into my office and told me they were not digital items. These 2 evidence items were swabs from JD's phone. Now, when I see JD, I think Jack DeCoeur. Jack DeCoeur was from Coeur d'Alene. So is this Jack DeCoeur's phone? I don't know. All these effing redactions make it hard for us to follow, but it seems like it's there. It looks like there are 2 evidence items that were swabs from Jack DeCoeur's phone. Now, maybe D here is a little long for DeCoeur, right? I sometimes try to go, well, how long was the name that they're trying to black out? The reason why this is important is if in February of 2023, long after they had Bryan Kohberger's name, they're still looking at evidence swabs of DNA from Jack DeCoeur's phone and the paper used while taking the swabs. It begins to make you question, were they still suspecting Jack DeCoeur as late as February, even after being given Bryan Kohberger's name, even after they said, we know who it is, even after they decided to stop looking at broad Google searches for everyone and narrowed it only down to Bryan Kohberger? Are they still, despite all those narrowing it down to Bryan Kohberger only because the FBI told them it's Bryan Kohberger, are they still looking at Jack DeCoeur for some reason? That would be interesting to me, but you can't prove, I think, that this JD is Jack DeCoeur. But they have got some evidence swabs. The swabs were taken before the phone was forensically downloaded. None of the seals on either of the items were broken, so I booked the package into MPD evidence on February 24th. I just don't know the timing of when the phone was taken, how long it took for the swabs to come in. It's got JD's name on it. Not 100% sure it's Jack DeCoeur because everything's redacted. And one thing we found in this case is there's a ton of people that have the same initials, and they get things really confusing. Roger Lanier on February 27th, 2023. On February 21st, 2023, so I get the reports on 27 about an event on February 21st. On February 21st, 2023, I completed a supplemental report. Why do I yawn? Oh. On February 21st, 2023, I completed a supplemental report detailing the release of the crime scene residents to the University of Idaho for security management. In that supplemental report, I incorrectly listed the address as 1022 King Road. The correct address that was released to the University of Idaho is 1122 King Road. So there is what we were looking for, right? When I'm reading the document earlier, I said 1022. That's interesting. That's not the right address. Is there another crime scene? Well, here's the report following up. I made a mistake, and that's okay. But I wanted to point it out where the correction was made. Danny Vargas from a report written or provided on February 28th about something that happened earlier, I believe. They're looking into Bryan Kohberger's U.S. debit card receipts, right? A majority, and so they're looking for these dates, 10/28, 11/7, 11/17. We know the murders were 11/23, right? Of 2022. So there's the murders. But we've got dates in here, 11/17. Look at this one, 11/17/2023, right in here amongst all those 2022s. Is that a mistake? I would say that's probably a mistake, typo. I don't know what it is. But again, when you look at these things, discerning eyes like, what the hell is that? Why is that? And then there, but anyways, it's probably a typo. It's probably a mistake. But they're looking at his receipts from around the time right before the murders in the month and right after the murders. A majority of these the items purchased were for food items. So they're looking at his bank statements, and it's mostly food items. On 11/7/2022, Kohberger purchased a beanie hat. Oh shit! Did he wear a beanie hat? See, this is what I'm talking about. We know it's Bryan Kohberger that did the murder. We know it's Bryan Kohberger. So now let's look through, micromanage every fucking transaction he's ever made in his life. Okay, food, I don't know. Did he take a snack while killing people? We can't really make that narrative. Oh, he's got a beanie hat. That might be something he wore at the crime scene. Let's focus on the beanie hat. This is how you narrowly focus, and you start pounding a fucking square peg into a round hole. You decide who the killer is, and then you look and you micromanage all their every move, every breath, and say, okay, food items, beanie cap, that might be used for something. you start narrowing in, and that's all this is, in my opinion. It's all this is. It's a fishing expedition to find something they can paint a narrative about. So Kohberger purchased a beanie hat, but unfortunately there was no description of the hat. I spoke with an employee from Walmart, and he stated at the time he met with Detective Schwecke, they were unable to locate the details of the exact beanie which Kohberger had purchased. We need to know that exact beanie. He might have worn a beanie cap at the murder scene. We narrowly focus on it. We got to find out if there's a way we can link a beanie cap to the murder scene. Schwecke also, let's see, on 12/1, so December 1st, Kohberger purchased utility clothes. This could be what he wore at the murder. Again, it's nitpicking everything. It's food items, beanie caps, and clothes. This could be it, right? And I get it a little bit, but it's just trying to find, if you do this to any human being, hey, look, I think you might have committed a murder. Let me grab all your bank statements and look for anything that might look like I can build a story from it. And I'm going to pull that out and go, on this date, they bought this. Here's what they were probably doing. Now, all I have to do is paint a narrative in your head, and that'll be good enough for some people to make a conviction. So I spoke with an employee from Walmart who told me this item was a 9-pack hand towels, which were 2 shades of gray. There was nothing else of interest located in the receipts. Now, I find this super weird. I read this several times. So you're telling me that on November 21st, Kohberger purchased utility clothes. Utility clothes makes you feel like he bought some kind of jumper, some kind of outfit. And maybe he did, because earlier, at some point, Steve Gonzalez says, we got him purchasing, Dickies clothes at the Walmart. Okay. And that was his implication of that's what we know he was wearing to the murder scene. We don't know that, but that's the narrative. You find that he made a purchase of some Dickies clothes, and that's the narrative. That we know when he bought his killer suit. Was that found? No, it wasn't found. So was he wearing it at the crime scene? I don't know. But you know what? We found it, and so we're going to paint that narrative. He bought clothes on this date, so we know when he bought the clothes. Oh, yeah, what clothes? Well, the clothes that you haven't found. Oh, so how do you know he's wearing it? I don't know. It makes a really fucking good narrative. So he bought the clothes, and we know when he bought it. You see what I'm saying? I don't know if you see what I'm saying. I'm trying to make a point. If you micromanage and pick something out, there were no clothes found. The bloody clothes of the killer weren't found. So telling we know when he bought his clothes for the murder, and you haven't found the clothes. Oh, that's why we haven't found it. It's proof. Where are those clothes he bought? See, and I get the logic. You think that him not being able to provide the clothes, or you not knowing where the clothes went, is proof that was the clothes used in the murder. So again, just pick some stuff, build a narrative, cause a story to go in people's head, and then, oh, that is suspicious. Where are those clothes? Anyways, of note, however, is the utility clothes they're talking about, if I'm not reading this wrong, is just some towels, some hand towels. It's not even the Dickies uniform. It says Kohberger purchased clothes. And then I spoke with an employee who told me that this receipt item for clothes was 9-pack hand towels. So not the uniform, the bloody uniform, the missing uniform. Anyways, one receipt from Target was provided from a transaction which belonged to BF. I believe this is Bethany Funk. Oh shit, here we go. We've got Brian Kohberger at the same fucking store as Bethany Funk on the same day. We've got him. Oh no, hold on. One receipt from Target was provided from a transaction which belonged to Bethany Funk. Her last digits of her card is this, on 10/10/2022 at 1600 hours. Kohberger was at the same Target on the same day as Funk, but completed his transaction at 1742. Well, that's like an hour and 45 minutes later. It is unknown if Funk and Kohberger were at Target at the same time. And there's nothing of interest purchased by Kohberger. Holy shit. Again, this is how you fish for somebody. One day, out of all days, it happened to be that Bethany Funk went to the same store that Brian Kohberger did, and we get it close, man. They're within an hour and 45 minutes of each other, but there's no indication they were ever in the store at the same time. But fucking hold on to that shit, because if we need to build a narrative to a jury, this will be part of it. Brian Kohberger was stalking Bethany Funk at the Target, and we'll just try to hope that we can gloss over it. Well, we didn't happen to catch it on video camera, but they were in the same store together on the same day. An hour and 45 minutes apart from each other. May not have actually crossed paths. But if we micromanage and look for every little thing, and here's the thing, at the end of the day, they will tell you, We found no connection between the two. So what that means is they ultimately concluded Brian Koberger did not meet Bethany Funk at the target. He did not stalk her at the target. Ultimately, that was their conclusion. He never did stalk the girls, never did. But they're starting to paint it. You can see in the documents where they're starting to paint the narrative. Brian Koberger was in the same store as Bethany Funk. We got to build the narrative. He knew these girls. He was following these girls. And ultimately they concluded we can't prove that he ever saw the girls or knew anything about the girls. 11/23, he purchased a 2,000 watt, 4,000 watt power inverter and a 1-year ITC membership. I looked into that a little bit. Apparently, and I don't know what he was doing with the inverter, but an ITC membership appears to be something you can sign up with where you can get discounts on things related to energy conservation and stuff like that. And here's where this is why it's important. It's a 1-year membership. Everything I see in the documents that I'm revealing today indicate Brian Koberger was planning on continuing his residency, whatever you want to call it, at Pullman, that he was going to come back after Pennsylvania, that he thought he was going to continue on with his degree. So there were some people who were painting the narrative. Brian Koberger was never planning on coming back to Washington State. He fled Washington State and he was going to drop out of school. Things were going shitty for him there. He lost his teaching assistant job. Brian Koberger wasn't coming back, yet he left his belongings behind. He was buying 1-year memberships. That means he's going to stay in Pullman for a year. He changed his license plates, for fuck's sake, from Pennsylvania to Washington because he's going to be living in Washington and anticipates. But again, you narrative writers will tell us, oh yeah, Brian Koberger was never planning on coming back to Washington State, even though he changed his plates to Washington State and he bought 1-year memberships to Washington State and he talked about in other documents that he's going to continue going to school there for the next year. But no, the narrative sounds better. He was fleeing the state and was never coming back. Detective Swecki collected unit renter information and contact information for 2 separate storage units in Colfax, Washington. Now this jumped out at me as super weird. I don't see anywhere else in the documents. Maybe we'll find out later. Maybe, because again, I have a good 100 documents left to review. Holy shit, is that much we have to go through still? Anyways, at some point, they're looking into storage units in Colfax, Washington. Now, I used to go to school in Pullman. Colfax is a ways away, and it's in the opposite direction, if I remember right, opposite direction of Moscow, Moscow, Idaho. So if you go from Pullman to Moscow, Colfax is the other direction. So what is he doing having mini storage supply? They're looking into supply units in Colfax. There's no explanation I can see in here what they're looking for, other than they can tell you the name Brian Koberger was not listed on the facility. What it indicates to me is maybe somebody found something suspicious in some storage unit in Colfax and they're trying to tie Koberger to it. If it's suspicious, can we put Brian Koberger's fucking name on it? Nope. All right, move on. But it's just, this is again how you build things. You decide who the killer is, and then you look for every connection you can find to put him somewhere at some time to build a narrative. And that's, in some regards, that's good detective work, because if he was certain places at certain times, it makes a difference. But other times it looks like if you just have a random coincidence and you can build a narrative from it, it's going to convince a jury. So there's a fine line between that shit. All right, Brett Payne on March 2nd, 2023. On February 28th, 2023, I emailed a formal request to Captain Anderson with LCSO for a copy of all video and audio obtained during Corporal Duke's traffic stop of Koberger. Let's take a look and pour through everything. We're going to get the traffic stop information. So no big deal. I just thought it was more of the, once we have his name, we're going to crawl up his ass until we find something. Brett Payne, 3/9/2023. Now, this is another tip kind of thing, I believe. Yeah. So an event on January 23rd. That's, it's a month or so after the murders, right? A couple months after the murders, actually. On January 23rd, 2023, the FBI tip line received an email from somebody with the initials AH, which stated Koberger attended PhD courses at Oklahoma State University. Holy shit. I did not know Brian Koberger went to Oklahoma State University or he didn't. It's just a tip. It's a tip that they followed up on because somebody mentioned Brian Koberger's name, and God damn it, we got to find any connection, any weirdness we can find about Brian Koberger. A lot of people were sending in tips about Brian Koberger. I saw him here. I saw him there. It looks really suspicious. And here's the thing. While many of these are ruled out as that there was nothing to this when we looked into it, there was nothing to it. The point being is that when you've got a million people throwing Brian, I think I saw Brian Koberger here. I thought I saw him here. I thought he was going here. And if any of those can't be ruled out, then you can add it to the list of suspicious activity. But the problem is, unfortunately for them, every once in a while, when they get a good juicy tip, turns out to have no connection whatsoever, and it's just a flat out lie. This one was particularly interesting, I thought, if it's the one I'm thinking about. So let's get into it. So this person added that she met Koberger during this time, and Koberger had befriended a professor named JD. Not Jack DeCoury, he's not a professor somewhere, who gave Koberger a K-bar knife. Oh my God, there's the killer's knife. There it is. Somebody knew Brian Koberger. They were befriended, and he had befriended a professor who gave him the killer's K-bar knife. Well, that's the narrative they're painting. But it turns out that's not true. None of it's true. And so they had to let this shit go. I spoke to I'm sure at this point they were sitting there in their office with the raging, they were excited. They were excited to have the K-bar knife at this point. I spoke to this person on the phone on March 2nd, 2023, and I did not record the phone conversation. I don't know why, but anyways, this person related that she met Koberger when this person that they're talking about brought him to her house for a visit. So not only is Koberger talking to this professor that he gave him a knife, but they hung out at her house. He brought him over to introduce him or something. She stated that Koberger made her very uncomfortable because he's a creepy fucker. And she warned this professor about him. Watch out for that guy. That's a creepy motherfucker. And you're giving him a K-bar knife. It would be great. It would be great. This story makes you rigid with anticipation. We got him. Problem is, it's all bullshit. I asked this person to email me everything she had. Oh my God, give me everything you got. I love this story. To support her claim. She emailed me the following information on March 2nd. In 2016 to 2017, the University of Oklahoma began offering criminal justice bachelor's degrees. Koberger found it cheaper to take the courses here that he needed for his degree. The school phone, and as a phone number redacted, the dean who approved Koberger was, and she gave the name of the person who approved Koberger, and has since retired. So, I mean, they've got a good paper trail here. They know when the school began offering criminology things. They know Koberger was looking for a cheaper alternative to where he's going to school, and the dean approved Koberger's request. And so, ask for Dean so-and-so, she says, here is his information, and that you're going to need. So they're looking for a subpoena on this information from OU, Oklahoma University, I believe that is. And you will see personal communication between this professor and Koberger. Man, that seems like a really, 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 really good lead. All right. So they pin trap the phone number. Anyway, so then this person, an instructor, and I don't know what this is, Sun, S-O-N, Light Materials Arts, Martial Arts, sorry. Sun Light Martial Arts something, okay. Don't know what it is, so redacted, I don't know. Allowed Koberger to attend class at, oh my God, so he's there attending classes as a guest. Koberger's attending class as a guest. Right there, there's something super suspicious. He's not registered as a student, apparently. He's just attending the class as a guest. Sometimes students are allowed to what they call sample a class. Take a look at it, sit in on it, watch lectures, decide if it's worth, if they feel like they're going to be able to pass that class good enough, they'll sit in on a class. They'll sample it. I can't remember what they call it, but it's basically like getting a little preview. Do I like this instructor? Do I understand the material? Is this a class that I would do well in? I'm watching my GPA. I got to make sure that I take classes that I'm good at. So sometimes they do that kind of stuff. Is that what's happening? Is Koberger attending a class as a guest to see if it's a class that he would like or that he likes the style? So this person allowed Koberger to stay at their home. So Koberger's staying very, very detailed. All right. So this person said that Koberger was homicidal and possibly had a psychotic break. Holy shit. Now we know Brian Koberger was homicidal, scaring the fuck out of people. This guy's creepy. We're going to give him a K-bar knife. He's creepy, but we're going to give him a K-bar knife. He looks a little homicidal. Holy shit, what's going to happen here? He might have had a psychotic break. I should probably give that guy a fucking K-bar. See where things go. Like, the story already stinks, in my opinion. Anyways, he's violent, sloppy. He has ideations of violence towards others. This looks really, really bad for Koberger. I believe I contacted the FBI agent named so-and-so and alerted her. Koberger used a credit card to pay for his courses and travel expenses. I subpoenaed his financial records. I'll have another report for you this afternoon with addresses, numbers, and any other evidence of the visit. And then it says this person, they found out, lies to investigators, period. He lied to so-and-so, Virginia State Police, in a cold case murder investigation. He is a Krav Maga instructor, so he teaches martial arts, and a predator. He encouraged Koberger and initiated him into brutality. Upon further investigation, it was learned that this person had reported 36 tips to the FBI over the past several years. In addition, there is no current information to support Koberger ever attended Oklahoma State University. I will investigate further if the information arises that Koberger attended OSU at any point in time. Oh my God. They have a serial reporter who loves to be at the center of big cases. Oh yeah, I saw Brian Koberger. That creepy motherfucker had homicidal ideations, was talking about killing people. So I gave him a K-bar knife. I'm pretty sure he did it. And then you find out that person calls in tips all the time. It's kind of what they fucking do. It gets them off being at the center of high profile cases. That shit happens all the time. It was really good reading though. It was really good reading for a while, wasn't it? I was pretty excited. Were you excited? I was excited. That was some good shit. All right, so let's go back to continue on with the document. Close this. Now, here's the thing. That whole story, for the point, by the way, is if they could have gotten anything interesting out of it, that would have become part of the narrative. Then you would have heard things. Oh, yeah. People who knew Koberger knew that he had homicidal ideations. He was a violent person. He was taking martial arts to learn how to kill people. He was taught how to kill people. That would have been part of the narrative if they hadn't, God damn it, ruled it out, because the person had a history of making false reports. So it only becomes part of the narrative if you can kind of rely on that person. You can only place Brian Koberger in the house by Molly McMichaels if she's reliable. And sometimes that shit doesn't work out. Brett Payne, March 9th report, talking about an event on Friday, March 3rd. Friday, March 3rd, 2023, this is after the murders, I spoke to somebody by the name of VH on the phone referencing a tip that she reported to the tip line. I did not record our conversation. This person originally reported that the tip in January. So they're following up on something that happened in January, but they're taking a month to get to it or something, or maybe not a month. But anyways, and stated that she had an encounter with someone she thought was Koberger. Here we go. We got him. I called this person at such and such and spoke to her about the tip. She told me that she was working as a dancer at some place, at some club, in some location that we are not allowed to know about, during 2018 to 19 timeframe. Such and such a location is a 2-hour drive from some other location in Pennsylvania. It may or may not be anywhere fucking near where Koberger lives in Pennsylvania, but maybe this dancer, stripper, whatever she is, may have saw Brian Koberger at the club where she worked in Pennsylvania. So let's follow this down. And I get it. You have to follow every lead. And yes, I guess you have to put it in the police reports. But the point being is that all of this, a lot of times just gets, and some of this will stick. Some will stick. Little hints of it will stick. Did you know that there was a suspicious person that said that he was creepy and had homicidal ideations and hated women and whatever? That kind of shit sticks in little places because of false reports and whatever. That gets leaked conveniently to the media. And so that's what they cleverly leak. When something will get out there to the media and stick in people's head, those will be leaked. All right, anyways. Hoffer stated she was unsure which of the 2 years the encounter took place in. So we're not even sure when it happened, but here's what she remembers. She stated that she came into work on what she described as a slow day and noticed only one man seated near the stage alone. She stated that she got on stage and began her dance when she noticed the man seemed to be talking to himself. Crazy guy talking to himself. Oh my God, I'm going to kill somebody. I'm going to kill somebody. I'm going to cut a bitch. It's good narrative. It's good theater. All right. So she stated the man made her feel uneasy because he's creepy and everybody knows that, but she continued her dance. She told me that during the dance, she heard the man state something about wanting to kill people. I'm going to fucking kill somebody. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to talk to myself. I got creepy foot. I got vibes. It's Koberger. He's talking to himself. I'm going to kill somebody. I'm going to cut a bitch. This is the narrative that we're coming up with. None of it's really true, but it's all good. If it could stick, we're going to use it. So she told me she thought she misheard the man, so she did not acknowledge the statement until he said it again. She's like, he couldn't have just said he's going to kill somebody. Nope, he said it twice. I'm going to kill somebody. I'm talking to myself. I'm going to kill somebody. All right, so she said she could not remember exactly what the man said, but thought it was something to the effect of wanting to kill people. I think he was talking about killing people. Now, this is what happens when people's minds run away from them. She sees Koberger's picture in the news, and then she's like, oh my God, he looks like a guy who was in there. Oh, you know what? He might have been talking about killing people. Yeah. And then you start building a whole story that doesn't exist in your head, and you get excited and worked up, and this is how it happens. So she told me that she engaged the man after the second comment, thinking that he was trying to get attention. She told me she jokingly asked the man who he was going to kill, to which he replied something to the effect of, whoever I want. Flippant, this arrogant MF, I'll kill whoever I want. I'm a fucking killer. I'm a straight up killer, yo. I will kill who I want. It's a good story. She completed her dance and left the stage. She told me the conversation was strange enough that she remembered telling the bouncers at the club to keep an eye on him, and said that she sat and watched the other dancers for some time. Eventually, she told me, she offered the man a private dance. He's super creepy and he's going to kill people. I think I'm going to go ride as Johnson in the back room on a private dance. That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, so she's going to offer him a private dance as he was the only patron in the club. Well, got to earn your money, so I guess I get it. During this dance, yes, I'm really flavoring this story up. I'm in a mood. It's pretty funny shit. I'm entertaining myself right now. I hope that you enjoy it and don't think that guy's an asshole. That's not at all what she's saying. I don't know. It just feels that way to me, and I am spicing it up just a hair. All right. So she told me that the man told her to look him directly in the eyes the entire time. I don't want to get creepy. That's going to start to get creepy. And asked her questions about what car she drove and where she lived. Oh my God, tell me where you live. I'm going to come back and I'm going to kill you. I'm so thinking about killing you. Anyways, she told me she finished the private dance, at which point the man left and did not return to the club to her knowledge. She told me that she did not think about that encounter until she saw Koberger. Creepy guy talking about I'm going to kill people, wanting to know my address in my car, but I never gave it another thought again until I saw Koberger's picture on TV, and I went, oh, that's the guy that I was riding as Johnson in a private dance because he's so creepy and wants to kill people that I have to make my money. Again, if that line of thinking doesn't make sense to you, there's a reason. Anyways, she told me that she was fairly certain Koberger was the man that she encountered in the club that day. She did not have any further information to corroborate her story and told me she just wanted investigators to be aware. Just want to make you sure you're aware that creepy guy was talking about killing people, asking for my phone and my car and my address, all these things. He was going to kill me. I'm pretty sure I was going to be one of his victims. Look at me. I'm in the center of attention. She reiterated to me that she was fairly sure Koberger was the man that she saw. I concluded conversations with that person after I confirmed that she was willing to speak again if I needed further information. Now, in the 50 documents I review this time, I don't see a follow-up on that, but spoiler alert, I believe you're not going to find that story was all true, and that's why we never heard about it again. Or maybe we'll hear about it when he says we tried to follow up on that and none of that shit. Again, if they had receipts that Koberger was at that strip club, do you think that story would have been out in the media? Hell yeah, it would have been out in the media. So if they had found Brian Koberger actually went to that strip club or whatever it was and paid for that lap dance, whatever it was, I'm sure that would be all over the media. Guarantee you it would be all over the media. So the fact that it wasn't tells you when they looked into it wasn't true. That's my supposition. Brett Payne, but it made a really good story. It really made a good story. Brett Payne on March 9th, 2023. Somebody by the name of AD emailed a tip to the tip line on February 18th, 2023, and stated that he was on Johnson Road on November 13th. This is the date of the murder, and saw a white car parked alongside the road between 5 and 6 p.m. that day. I called somebody, this person D, this person that we're getting a tip from, on March 8th. That's a long time after the murder. Oh, sorry. The tip didn't come until February 18th, so they called him on March 8th. Okay, a couple weeks. And spoke to him over the phone. Our conversation was not recorded. Well, that's weird. Why are you not recording the conversation if you think that might be a good tip? So this person told me that he had gone to his sister's house in someplace, Washington, on November 13th, the date of the murders, and was on his way home later that evening. D told me that he noticed a white foreign model car. So there's the white Elantra Ford, a foreign. No, an Elantra is not a foreign car. So right there, we know the story's got problems. He noticed a white foreign model car on the side of the road under a tree as he went by. He told me that he believed the time was approximately 5:30 p.m. He stated he did not pay close enough attention to see anyone in or near the car, but thought it was odd. Upon release of probable cause affidavit for Koberger's arrest, so after they went for Koberger, this person thought it may have been Koberger's vehicle as it was on Koberger's path of travel the evening of the 13th. So again, people get all freaked out. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, the media is reporting that the killer drove this path. I remember seeing a white car, and they're looking for a white car on that path. I probably saw Koberger. Let's go. Let's go. Problem is, it was the wrong car and the wrong thing. And I get it. At some extent, while I'm being a little bit snarky with the tips, I get it. And to be fair, police did not leak these to the media. So I'm being a little unfair to the police officers in this case, because again, just because people are out there in the public calling in every tip, jumping at an opportunity to, I saw Koberger here, I saw Koberger there. My entire point of the thing is to point out that this is what happens in crime cases, right? Once the killer's name or the alleged killer's name is put out into the media, people start coming for, yeah, I saw him. I had an interaction with him. It's part of the 15 minutes of fame thing. I want to get on TV saying I saw him at some place. I got this great story about how he came into the strip club and I gave him a lap dance. That would have been great. Could have got that stripper on, that person, that dancer on TV talking about how close she came to death because he wanted her phone. It makes people feel really important. And it does help police build a narrative if they're trying to build a narrative, if they could not rule it out. And to be fair, the police ruled a lot of this stuff out. I had this person describe the location to me and stated the car was under a large lone tree on Johnson Road between Johnson and Pullman. He added the pullout of the location where Johnson Road changed pavement to gravel. I located that location and described and responded there. So he goes to the location where he says, this is something important. Look for this location. Upon receiving permission from the property owner, who's listed here by redaction, I began to dig in several areas which appeared to have been disturbed earth. So this is where the car was. It's not the right car. It sounds like it's a foreign model car, but this guy said this guy did something weird in this area. I see some disturbed earth. Maybe the killer, maybe Koberger, buried his K-bar knife at this property. So he's starting to dig at the earth, and he's unable to locate anything of evidentiary value. Sergeant Blaker and Detective Vargas responded with a metal detector and swept the area, but did not discover anything of note. We also searched under a nearby bridge, but did not discover anything of note. While on the scene, this person who had been part of this tip arrived and explained the vehicle was nosed in off the road facing the farm field. This person also stated he and a friend came to the spot several days prior and also used a metal detector to search the area. So they were all, we're gonna do great detective work, and I get it. Who wouldn't want, if you're a true crime sleuther, who wouldn't want to be the person who found the knife? That's going to be a big find, right? You just want to help solve a crime, or maybe you want to be on the news because you're like, oh my God, I found the knife, and everybody's going to talk about how I found the knife, and I'll go down in history as the guy who found the knife. Whatever your motivation may be, people are going to be excited if they can find it. So they're out there with metal detectors. They didn't find it. I thanked them for their assistance and cleared the area after additional visual searches were conducted. In addition to this information, during my initial phone call with this person, he told me he was painting the apartment of somebody by the initials of BK, the previous tenant, and the person named in tips during the initial investigation. This person stated he could see a knife blade in the gutter of the building from the apartment window. I requested the WSU, Washington State University Police Department, respond and collect this item, which they later did. The blade is a serrated cooking style kitchen or knife with the handle broken off. The blade portion was approximately 8 inches long and 2 inches wide per WSU officers who collected it. Based off this description and the condition of the knife, I do not believe it matched the wounds found on each of the victims. However, I will still collect the knife from the WSU PD. So they're talking about this guy with the car, and now we see a knife. And again, I wouldn't put it past some people who are excited to be part of a crime to put a knife someplace and go, I just found this knife. And they're going to be at the center of attention for a while. And that gets people rigid with anticipation of being important, even if it later turns out to be bullshit. And again, none of this is really great for the story. Maybe you're like, devil's advocates, you could have passed on all these stories because ultimately it came out to be nothing. I just find it, we're doing a raw dive on the documents, and I'm showing you what caught my attention. If you don't like that kind of content, of course, don't watch it. There you go. All right, so February 21st, 2023, photos of 1122 King Road from Walenta Drive. This just is interesting. On March 15th, 2023, I drove the most likely route that Kohberger took. This is where it starts to get bothersome in a way. Kohberger hasn't, and I'm nitpicking, but for me, I would have liked to have said I drove the route that the suspect vehicle 1 was driving. But now, in the police department's mind, it's no longer a suspect. We know Brian Kohberger did it. So now I'm just going to tell you, I drove the route that Kohberger took. Do you understand the subtle shift in logic? This investigation should be still ongoing. It should still be, the suspect vehicle's route, or the route we think suspect vehicle 1 took. But at this point in the investigation, Payne, I believe it is that who wrote this? Brett Payne, now knows, in his mind, he knows Brian Kohberger is the killer and drove his car. So when he does this route, he's taking the route that Kohberger took. You see the shift? This isn't an investigation anymore. This is a discovery. And how can we prove this guy did it? We know he did. So now let's prove how Kohberger did it. This is the route Kohberger took. A lot of us were still out there saying this is the route the suspect may have taken, but not for police. Police have shifted to Kohberger. This is the route Kohberger took. Near 1122 King Road on November 13th. During this drive, I took photos of 1122 King Road from Walenta Drive, the road that Kohberger's vehicle can be seen taking on the surveillance footage. The road his vehicle can be seen taken on the surveillance video from King Road. Again, we don't know. For fuck's sake, Corporal Payne, please. It has been repeatedly pointed out, you don't know for sure that vehicle is Kohberger's. It seems to match the general description, and it seems to be, but in Payne's eyes now, this is the route Kohberger took. We know it was Kohberger in the car. We know it was, even though definitively later on they will say we never could put Kohberger at the scene. We can't definitively say Kohberger was there. We don't even know Kohberger was stalking the house or around the house. We're not even sure Kohberger was in the car or it was the right car. They've admitted all those things, but in Corporal Payne's report here, this is Kohberger's car, where Kohberger drove, and where he was seen on camera. The fuck you did, we don't know who it was. Yeah, I'm mad. You don't know who it was, but in the police department's eyes, they have shifted. They have shifted the mentality. Kohberger drove this route, his car is seen here, and that's all they can do at this point. It's no longer a suspect vehicle 1. It's no longer a question who did it. We know before trial begins, this is what Kohberger did. We've got him on camera. Even though later on they'll be like, we're not sure we can't prove that is Kohberger's camera or car. We can't prove that is his car on. Okay, but for the police, they know it is. They just can't prove it. I took the following photos, bunch of photos from Walenta Drive. In addition, Sergeant Blaker and I took MPD Patrol Car 4 and drove the most likely route Kohberger, not the suspect. We drove the most likely route that Kohberger took during the early morning hours. So again, Kohberger did it, and we know he did it before his first day in trial. We're not looking for what the suspect may have done or following the movements of the suspect vehicle that might be Kohberger. It's no, we are driving the route that Kohberger took that morning, based off of various surveillance footage recovered during the investigation. The drive was recorded out of each driver's side passenger window via MPD body cameras assigned to Sergeant Blaker and Officer House, as well as the dash-mounted camera in the MP. So they got multiple camera angles as they're driving the route they know Kohberger took, even though later on they'll say, we can't prove Kohberger took those things. And they don't know Kohberger took those things. They just have a raging hard-on that he did take that, and they're going to try to build the narrative because they're certain he did. And that's what bothers me about the whole thing. At some point, there's a fine line between the idea of presumption of innocence. Do the police have to have presumption of innocence? Well, on Cops, for example, the TV show, Bad Boys, that I used to watch, all people are considered innocent until proven guilty. And the police should consider that as well when they're doing their investigation. But at some point, they shifted to Brian Kohberger is the guy. And then they told you, this is what he did that morning. This is the route he took that morning. We are showing you what exactly Brian Kohberger did. And then later on go, we really can't prove he did any of that stuff, but We really wanted to make sure that we could connect Koberger for you, and we couldn't. But we really wanted to, and we were telling everybody in the office, Koberger did this, and this is what he did, and we wanted to prove it, and we couldn't prove it to you. On March 21st, 2023, because he's set, by the way, side tangent, we couldn't prove it to you because he's a criminal mastermind, PhD. We wanted to prove it to you, but he outsmarted us, right up to the point of taking his own cell phone to the crime scene and his own car to the crime scene on camera and leaving his DNA behind. He's brilliant. He outsmarted us, except for leaving. Again, what I'm saying is, which way do you want to have it? Is he dumb and he takes his own phone to the murder scene and his own car to the murder scene and drives past a bunch of cameras? Is he that dumb? Is he that careless? He left DNA behind the crime scene because he's careless? Or is he a criminal mastermind and he outsmarted you and you can't prove he knew the girls, drove there, did all, because he's so smart? Which one is it? Is he super smart or super dumb? Which one is it? Well, it depends on what narrative we want to tell that day. On March 21st, 2023, I asked to see if we still had video surveillance from the front lobby area of the police department from November 13th. I was informed Koberger's defense team, and Taylor and her team, had requested any videos showing where any witnesses had been kept on the day of the homicide. I think what Ann Taylor is looking for is, were the witnesses properly separated? Were they taken into individual interrogation rooms? Were they asked independently of each other to tell their story, to make sure that their stories match up? I want to see the process. I want to see chain of custody. I got video footage, presumably, of them standing outside the house. I got video footage other places. What I want to see is what happened when they got to the police department. Do you have that footage? That's what she's asking for. What happened when they got to the police department? Because I want to do a chain of custody on these witnesses. How long did they have to concoct a story? That's what I would imagine if I were a defense attorney I'm looking for. How long did the people who were there at the scene have, outside of police presence or within police presence, to concoct a story together and go, yeah, that's what I saw, yeah, and back each other up? Or were everybody properly separated and interrogated? I checked the cameras to the front lobby and the camera in the training room. I was only able to recover video from 3 cameras which show the front lobby area. I burned the video to DVD and booked it into property. So apparently he doesn't have the camera footage of them actually being interrogated. He just has video footage of them in the lobby. Why, out of all things, would you not have the interrogation video? Is that what they're saying, that they don't have the interrogation video? I don't know. So let's squeeze one more document in, and look, we're almost through the documents. This will only, I'm pretty sure, there's one big document coming, so I don't know, but I think we're going to get this done in 2 videos, 2 one-hour videos. So let's press as far into this as we can with the remaining 2 or 3 minutes. Brett Payne on March 21st, 2023. I was notified via email on Monday, March 20th, 2023. This is after the murders, into the next spring, of a found property call reported to LCSO, wherein the RP discovered a K-Bar brand knife in some bushes in the city of Genesee, Idaho, on the same day. So somebody had found a K-Bar knife in some bushes in Genesee, Idaho, which is nearby. It's also the route that the suspect allegedly took as they were leaving Moscow, Idaho. They went past Genesee. I used to say Genesee, which is funny because I went to school in that area, and Genesee is an area you wouldn't normally go, and so I didn't really get the name down on the town. I said Genesee, and somebody said it's Genesee, and it's like, oh God, I think I actually heard the term. So I'm pretty sure it's Genesee, and I don't. And the reason why I'm sketchy on it, even though I'm from the area, is it's a small little place around that area that I would never had to go through, unless I guess maybe you're the suspect and you're driving through to drop off the K-Bar knife. But anyways, per the LCSO call records, the knife was located by a child playing in some trees at the top of Ash Street near Spruce Street. And they do believe that they have suspect vehicle 1 driving this route. So they're very excited because this is the K-Bar knife. It probably is where the killer dumped the knife. The Department of Whiting, or Deputy, not department, the Deputy Whiting, I believe, responded and booked the item into LCSO evidence. On March 21st, I responded to the LCSO to look at the knife. The knife was a K-Bar brand knife with a blade approximately 4 inches. Well, shit. I don't think 4 inches is going to do the job, and never mind. The knife was in a black Kydex sheath with cordage wrapped around the handle for grip. Okay, So this knife did not appear to match the wounds, however, inflicted on all 4 victims. I added the word however. I collected the knife from LCSO and booked it into NPD evidence on March 21st, 2023. I also attached a photo of the knife and LCSO call records for this case file electronically. So no big deal. They found a knife in some bushes along the route that the killer took. It was a K-bar knife. Why wouldn't you follow up on it? However, it only seems to be 4 inches in length, and you can't do anything with 4 inches. So you certainly can't do the murders in that house with 4 inches. So there you go. Wasn't the knife. And that's good enough for today, or for this video. Not for today. I'm going to go record the next one, and hopefully we'll get through that on the next video. But again, one of those documents is long and well worth discussing, so it may go a little long. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed the storytelling, because it was a little bit much on my part perhaps today. Sorry about that.